Entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. This is the Fantasy Football Week 4 Rankings debate by position. Might even get some pickups, some injuries for you in there. If you're a good person, you will sub to Mayo Media Network and smash the like. And once you are sub to Mayo Media Network, you can jump in on the live chat and ask your fantasy questions to the real experts, not Pat Mayo. We got Jake Ciely from theathletic.com, Ian Hartitz from, I guess not The Fantasy Life, just fantasylife.com. And if you want access to their rankings, hit the description right now. You will get the direct link. If you're looking for mine, they will come out on Wednesday afternoon. If you sub to the free Mayo Media newsletter, they will get some sent directly to you. If not, you can just go to 4for4.com and check them out up there as well. Fella Roonies, there's a question in the chat from Big Vince. Ian, we'll start with you. Who are some names that you're looking to buy low on right now, like this second?
This very second, I mean, is Chris Olave a buy low if he's just always been a buy low at this point in time? The dude is on pace for 200 plus targets. Do you think that, again, that lower ADOT for him give him a little bit better floor than we've seen in the past? So I would say Olave. I had a couple other wide receivers sticking out. Just 1 second. Just in terms of, again, target share versus fantasy points, Olave, Calvin Ridley, as much as that has been a miss so far, I do think better days could be ahead. And how about Tedrow McMillan, guys? I still think that this rookie has all kinds of talent, just a wide receiver 30 so far. So I go T-Mac, Olave, and Calvin Ridley. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, I would throw Lad McConkey in there, Drake London in there, T. Higgins even coming off that game. That Jake Browning basically had the defensive line in his face every time he dropped back in that game, and I don't think the offensive line is going to change, but you can pretty much get T. Higgins for a song and a dance, to use that cliche at this point. Xavier Worthy, like, you know, we're still waiting for him to come back, and we still have a few games before Rashee Rice is. And some of these I'm throwing out because they're limited. Like, I answered this question, too, similar to Ian, in my waivers already for somebody that's desperate at 0-3. They lost Lamb. They lost Najee Harris as a backup running back. They lost James Conner, and just, like, don't walk under a ladder anytime soon. But Chase Brown's a buy low. Again, the offensive line's not going to fix anything. And then because it's so hard to buy running backs, as much as it's gross, and you and I have been on the same page the entire season, Pat. It's gross, and I don't really want them, but nobody wants DeAndre Swift or Tony Pollard. So if you're just desperate, you're going to have to kind of buy on those kind, but I would go after the wide receivers more.
Yeah, Cedric Tillman's the clear answer to this because, you know, he didn't catch a touchdown for the first week ever, so you can go buy him right now. Question about Pollard, though, to both of you. Tajay Spears should be back after this week. So week 5, he is eligible to be activated from injured reserve. How much do you think that he cuts into? I mean, Pollard's been terrible despite getting every touch in the Tennessee offense anyway. What happens when he gets half those touches?
I don't know if it's half the touches. I think this would just be a 60-40 split. So I still think he'll settle into the mid-teens unless he just gets outplayed by Spears. But that's the thing. Like, they're not going to force it to Spears coming back. Multiple injuries now, years in a row. So, like, does he work his way in? And could we be talking about Spears come week 8 or 9? Sure. I would compare it to Scadaboo at the beginning of the season. Scadaboo, for a different reason, was missing the preseason because of his injury. But I mean, the point being, the rookie wasn't getting the touches. He started to eat in, and then the injury happened to Tracy on top of it. But I think that you would see him start to be eased in.
Yeah, I think Pollard goes from an RB3 we already don't really want to start to an RB3 we really won't want to start once Tajay is going to be back. So likely to be more 50-50. It is wild, though. I mean, Jake named some guys who, again, have all the uses in the world, just can't get things going. So just goes to show you guys that O-line in a low-scoring environment can really be an issue for these RBs in a hurry.
So let's jump into the running backs. Here are the injuries that we're dealing with right now. Zach Charbonnet and his foot injury, which kept him out in week 3. He was a fake practice yesterday with the Thursday night game coming up. He's expected to be in, so I would expect him to be playing at this moment. Tyrone Tracy is out at least 2 to 4 weeks with a separated shoulder. We'll see how that's going. Aaron Jones remains on injured reserve. So more Jordan Mason, the better. In the Vikings backfield, they're in Dublin this week. Will Shipley, who knows, who cares? James Conner and Najee Harris both out for the season. I did notice, and not in my league, Jake, you know how this works, but Trey Benson's available in approximately 50% of leagues. Yeah. If he was out there in a league that you were in, would you spend 100% of your fab on him?
If I have $0 fab, yeah, 100%. There you go. Just you have to go get Benson, top 15 running back potential. I went so as far as to give people like the names. Like, so first of all, he's number one in my waivers because of your point. Like, he's still somehow out there in 50% of leagues. Like, everybody behind him, he comes first. I would drop Pacheco for him. Like, that's how far I'm going with this. Like, Pacheco, stop. We're done with this. Like, and I know, of course, Pacheco could get a touchdown next week, but there's names that, like, if my worst running back, now, of course, make trades, but if our worst running back is Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, like, I'm making the swap. We're talking about a top 15 running back.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think you don't have to drop those guys. You should have a worse option on your bench, but 100% fab for someone like Trey Benson. I think you can argue he's an RB1 the rest of the way in the same mold as a Murray and Hampton.
Yeah, I think that would make a ton of sense. So let's get to Ian's rankings. Again, fantasylife.com is where you can find them, or just hit the description. You can get the direct link to them down there right now. Number one is Christian McCaffrey. He have 3 yards per carry, but 300 touches a game. So that works out well. Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, the third at number 4. Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, A-Chain, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams. That's 10. You stop me at the circle of trust here, Ian. Kenneth Walker at 11, Bucky Irvin, Omarion, Hampton, Trey Benson, Jordan Mason, Travis Etienne Jr., Cam Scatterbo at 17, Ashton Genty, Alvin Kamara, Chuba
Probably
Hubbard.
about right there-ish. You can talk about, again, Kamara and Judkins and Javonte, but, man, still do have some tough matchups going on there. For the record, too, I was making these with the assumption that Charbonnet would be out, so Kenneth Walker would be much more in that low-end RB2 conversation.
So where do you think that you would drop him to, just off the top of your mind? I would play Benson ahead of him. I would play Mason ahead of him. I'd probably have him that ETN range.
I think that's about right. I think Javonte Williams, Quinshon Judkins, Kenneth Walker, probably about that similar spot. Again, it'd be nice if Kenneth Walker is going to be leaned on as the more featured back, but that's not what we saw even in that week 2 performance where he just managed to get things going a little bit more. So again, guys, really is a situation where we're good for Walker for falling into the end zone twice, but not so sure that 2.6 yards per carry necessarily earned him this, newfound workhorse role.
Where would you drop Kenneth Walker to here, Jake, or would you just keep him at number 11?
No, I would move him behind the circle and trust, including Chuba Hubbard. The workload was different because they were waxing the Falcons. Like, that's just one of those things. You bring up Hubbard all the time. That workload is something I would trust over Kenneth Walker with Charbonnet. Like, Charbonnet was miserable, and yeah, it was right before, of course, the injury on top of it, so that changes a lot of things potentially with Walker being the new lead, but Charbonnet was still the lead in that game where Walker vastly outplayed him. I just don't trust the Seahawks. That's the issue. So I'd put him at 20 right behind Hubbard because I trust Hubbard's workload even against the Patriots. And then you're into the Javonte Williams in a bad matchup, Judkins situation, and all these other questionable workloads outside of Chase Brown's just in a miserable matchup with a miserable offensive line. But I would put him at 20.
Who are the run defenses, Ian, that you're actively trying to avoid right now? And this worries me about my main man, Chuba Hubbard, this week. Fortunately, he can get himself going in the passing game. But the New England run defense has just been eliminating running back yardage.
Yeah, we've had 5 defense giving up less than a half yard before contact per carry. It's kind of the best way we can try to measure, again, the impact of these run defenses and then the offensive lines. So the Browns are actually in the negative, which is absolutely crazy. Myles Garrett and company are eating opposing RBs alive right now. You mentioned the Patriots. They're up there as well. Packers, Commanders, and Raiders. So Raiders, one of those defenses where, again, I think you can actually throw the ball a little more against them. But on the other side of things, guys, we have the worst offensive line in the league in terms of rush yards before contact per carry in the Raiders, and they're facing the worst defensive line in the Bears. So it really is, a movable force meeting a, stoppable object, I guess we can say, in this matchup. Please, Ashton Genty, one time, man, can we get something going?
So there's 2 questions about Genty in the chat right now, trade-wise, Ian. I'll start with you. Genty for Hubbard, Genty for Judkins? I wouldn't.
No,
I still prefer Genty. I just wish they could throw him the ball a few times, guys. Like, do we really need to see Dylan Lave on 2-minute drives? Do we really need Zamir White on 3rd and long situations? That's the part that pisses me off the most, man.
Well, yeah,
no, the Genty. Sorry, I was going to jump. The Genty. He's only one of 2 running backs, so he was one of 2 last week with Stevenson that had negative yards before contact average. This week, he's still one of 2. It's just Stevenson moved out, and now it's Chase Brown with him.
So who do you think is better fantasy-wise the rest of the season? Like, if you had both of those guys, who would you continue to trust a little bit more that you would want to hold on to? Like, if we talk about buy low target, I know that you mentioned Chase Brown. I think you'd have to throw Genty onto that list too, but compare them side by side, Jake. Which one would you rather have rest of the year?
Genty. as bad, like just because. I mean, the entire backfield. I don't think Taj Brooks is coming for Chase Brown, but he's not averaging 3 yards per carry. Samaje Perine, or barely just at Samaje Perine the same. Like, the offense can't get anything going because the offensive line is miserable. And I'm not putting this all on Jake Browning's shoulders, although some of those decisions and the interceptions were on his shoulders. But also, the defensive line was on his shoulders. I think there's a little bit more hope for the Raiders offense with Geno. And like I had to, I'm not an offensive line guru by any stretch of the imagination, but just watching, I feel like the Raiders are just a little bit better than the Bengals at this point. And also looking at some of the teams that they have to face, it's bad for the Raiders. I think it's worse for the Bengals.
Yeah, I think similar sentiment for me. I would be leaning towards Genty there. Hey, between, again, that just horrific week 2 performance from Geno Smith on Monday night. He threw for like 360 in week 1 against the Patriots and had an awesome performance last week with Trey Tucker going absolutely bonkers there against the Commanders. So I do think there's, potential for the Raiders to be more of an average scoring offense, which, again, eventually should be helping out Genty. Because, guys, remember, I've already seen generational my ass. Genty's a bust, this and that. Even Trent Richardson as a rookie was still a top 8 fantasy running back because he got force-fed the football enough. I do think that will be Genty as well. Still on pace for 295 touches this season.
The way that I would try to spin it too, Jake, I always like to project the future value game, that if Genty has a big, let's say they both have big weeks in week number 4, that Genty, and they put identical mirror stat lines, and they're both top 10 running backs for the week. They both put up like 24 fantasy points or something like that. Genty is just simply worth more in that circumstance.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I knew exactly where you're going. Yeah, and that's something that, since you and I have been doing this show together 15 whatever years ago it is, like something you always bring up, like play out the scenarios, waiver wire pickups, trades, whatever it might be. If they both have identical box scores, what's the perception going to be after the game? And it would 100% be Genty's the better running back than Chase Brown.
Now, let's say you could trade Genty for Josh Jacobs right now, Ian. I think I would make that trade.
Give me Jacobs. Yeah. Again, I trust the Packers far more than the Raiders. That's been a banged up offensive line who haven't been able to give Jacobs much running room on the ground as well. So in that case, give me Jacobs.
There is one player in your rankings. He is currently number 22. He is Quinshon Judkins. And I think that he just deserves to be higher. He is clearly the guy in this Browns backfield.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of respect to the Lions. It could be kind of bad game script. And unfortunately, we're still seeing plenty of Jerome Ford, not even Dylan Sampson on passing downs. But again, it is a situation where when we do see the Browns manage to get inside the 5-yard line, hasn't been very often. Obviously, do expect Judkins to finish things off. And he does look fantastic. I mean, he leads the NFL in yards after contact per carry. So certainly in that tier of guys, if you wanted to move him up ahead of Genty, wouldn't call you crazy.
I think part of it's the matchup. No, part of the matchup too. It's crazy. Like the Lions have actually been one of the better teams against the run. It's just all of a sudden, you remember this, Pat? Was it 2 or 3 years ago with the Giants? Is like their run defense was trash until all of a sudden we got to the goal line and they wouldn't let anybody into the end zone. It's the opposite for the Lions. It's like the Lions are stuffing everybody and only averaging under 3 yards per carry. But then they get to the goal line and we're like, go ahead and run it in. So it's weird. They've given up a touchdown in all 3 games, but they're still been one of the best run defenses overall, which is crazy. And they're also not letting a lot in the passing game to running backs. So I don't think that's a Judkins area that we need to worry about much. I agree that it's weird with Ian bringing it up is they went to Ford in the passing game and kicked Dylan Sampson basically to the curb. But I think where he has Judkins is kind of a fair spot.
So Judkins is at 22. Then there's Breece Hall, Chase Brown, J.K. Dobbins, Jalen Warren, who really did take over that backfield. I mean, they weren't lying about that. He didn't do anything with it. He did stuff in the passing game, but on the ground, he had 2 really big runs to start the game, then nothing on the ground the rest of the day for all of the Steelers offense. And now that they get Minnesota, who knows? DeAndre Swift, Pollard, David Montgomery down at number 29 against the Browns. Ian, I know that you made these rankings before the Monday Night Football game when David Montgomery went absolutely mental against the no linebacker. I feel like such an idiot. We broke down the Monday night game on yesterday's show, and Noonan had brought up just the injuries that have been sustained and who the guys are going to be missing on the Ravens side. And I was like, oh my God, Sam Laporta is going to eat in this game. And then, in retrospect, thinking back on it, it's like, you know what? When teams don't have linebackers, the running backs might just feast here if they get through that first line of defense.
Yeah, shout out Demont, looking like a combination of what Saquon Barkley, Sony Michel, Ezekiel Elliott, however the hell that, ESPN graphic went back in the day. Looking good out there, guys. So I probably would have spruced them up, a couple spots. I could see ranking them ahead of DeAndre Swift. But again, that Cleveland Browns defensive line, no joke. Mason Graham already making his presence felt as well. And honestly, that Browns defense as a whole, you can make an argument for being the best in the NFL, probably them or Green Bay, as we saw last week. So, man, Demont, yeah, I want to move up a couple spots. That is fine by me. We still did see Gibbs dominate the usage overall. Couldn't get the same amount going on the ground, obviously, but I think it was 22-12 in terms of the overall rush attempts. So I do think it's a situation where Demont maybe does fall into the end zone once or twice, but not a must start for me in this spot.
After him is Nick Chubb, then Travion Henderson, then Ramondre Stevenson. Both Patriots back-to-back at 31 and 32. Bill Krosky-Merritt at 33. He's no Jeremy McNichols. That's what we found out this week. Isaiah Pacheco, King Tootin, Ollie Gordon, Blake Corum, Woody Marks, Rashad White. Kenneth Gainwell is at number 40, now primarily backing up Jalen Warren in the Steelers' backfield. Then you're into like your Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunts, Jeremy McNichols, just guys that you hope fall into the end zone because that's all of the value that they have at this point. Jake, in that Patriots backfield, do you think that we've seen a switching of the guard, or I have a feeling they just go straight back to Ramondre again?
Yeah, hell, do I trust that backfield? Absolutely not. There's no chance. We needed 3 fumbles to let Henderson actually start to get the lead in this situation. 3? Like they went to Antonio Gibson first. And then they went back to Stevenson. And then finally they were like, okay, I guess we have to use Travion Henderson. You would think that seeing Henderson play, they would be like, oh, wow, look at this talent that we drafted. Shocker. Maybe we should use him. But there's a lot of stupid teams out there. We joked about the Texans last week. They need offensive line help. They draft the 2nd and 3rd round wide receiver, and they bury him on the depth chart. They're barely even active last week with Christian Kirkpac. So I say if you look at this, Henderson where he has him, yeah, there's definitely more upside with Henderson, but I don't trust this. If I could avoid and just wait for it to shake out, there's one you could buy low on potentially. I don't want him, but if you're desperate for running back, buy low on Stevenson, because what if he just goes right back to getting his 15 touches?
Yeah, between the Patriots, Commanders, and the Chiefs, they are really the 3 most muddled backfields at the moment. At least Kansas City is kind of more of a 2-back situation. Brashard Smith only getting a few gadget touches per game. But it's tough to trust Pacheco when every time they do get inside the 5-yard line or in a short yardage situation, they go right back to Kareem Hunt. Obviously, that offense not exactly lighting up the scoreboard, and a tough matchup this week against the Ravens. We'll see again if they get a little bit healthier, as you brought up, though, Pat. So, yeah, Washington, New England, I'd still put my chips in the long term on Henderson and Bill Krosky-Merritt, but it's really tough to trust either right now, and that's why they're not even in the top 30.
What do you make of Scadaboo's value now with Tracy out? Like, would he be a sell high to you right now, Jake? Because when Tracy comes back, do you think it reverts back to what it was? Because they had all the coach speak, oh, Scadaboo is going to do everything here in the backfield. Until Tracy got hurt, it was essentially 100% Tracy.
Yeah, it was. Well, Scadaboo was sprinkled in. I would compare it to the Patriots, is that like we really can't trust what they're doing. And it might be a matchup situation where you could look back at last year's Steelers and say that maybe it's going to be when they're in the lead more, they trust Scadaboo more, or like, we just don't know right now. But we have 2 to 4 weeks, as you mentioned. Scadaboo came into that game. He ranked top 5 in like possibly any metric you could find: yards after contact, yards per touch, receiving, blah, blah, blah. Like you can go up and down the list. And he ranks top 15 for the season despite splitting time with Tracy. So you would think this is the opening door that you need for somebody who's what they drafted him for, just missed the majority of the preseason. I would take Scadaboo over Tracy every single time. So I would say yes, a sell high, but not unless you're getting top 20 running back value. Like, and I know that might sound aggressive, but running backs are already starting to disappear. Running backs are a value in trade chips. And then there's the upside that what if he just keeps the lead? And I do think Tracy will be involved when he comes back, but what if he keeps the 65, 70% of the lead and Tracy's just sprinkled in? So I can see a sell high, but like I said, it would be a sell high only if I was getting probably like J.K. Dobbins, Breece Hall range, which is top 20.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped just to have Scadaboo on the squad. Also, is there a more fun running back just to watch out there right now? Jake mentioned, again, some of these advanced metrics.
He Ralph Wiggum's everything. He's going to die out there.
He's been doing it all of last year, man. That was what it was going to Arizona State as well. So, dude, it's just so fun to watch out there. I'm happy to have him on the squad. Again, it felt a little wonky ranking him ahead of Ashton Genty, but it really is that pass down work. And honestly, I mean, we knew that was one of the strengths of his game coming out. Did lead all Power 5 running backs in yards per route run last year at Arizona State. Yeah. So, Cam Scatterbo, again, it's a situation where, yeah, we're not going to have, the biggest booms on offense most likely, but who's to say that if and when Jackson Dart is under center, we don't see, even bigger rushing lanes with everything Dart can do in the read option game, and hopefully a little bit more scoring upside as well. So I'm pretty happy with Scatterboot. Look, there's always, the right price for these guys, but I would say if you are going to sell high, make sure you really are selling high. I would want to top, again, 20, if not even 15 talent at running back or wide receiver.
One running back that we talked about some of the buy lows, and this one's not going to be sexy because you're not going to trade for him and play him immediately. But Jake, I do think that Woody Marks is really establishing his role more and more every week in that Texans backfield because Nick Chubb just doesn't look good at all. So eventually they're just going to turn to him, I think.
I think they'll turn to him. I just don't think it'll be clear lead. I think you might get more of like a 50-50 split, but in that case, you want a more explosive running back. I just don't know that Woody Marks could handle 20 touches per game just because of his style, his size, and just a number of factors. I just think Woody Marks, he needs a complementary piece. Maybe that gets up to 55% where he is the lead, but it also goes back to it was the Texans offense. So even in that case, I'd still think that Marks, and I'm somebody who stashed Marks in basically every league I could, I still think he would be like a fringe RB2-3 where he would be more productive on a per-touch basis, but kind of in the same range of a Tony Pollard just because I don't think the touches are going to be high enough to get him inside that top 20.
Reminder,
I feel like that's pretty good, though. Sorry, real quick, Pat. Pretty good relative to the other guys like out there on the waiver wire. The only other people I want in more leagues than not are the Blake Corums, the Ray Davises, kind of the pure handcuffs of the world. Marks could take this over. I mean, Dario Ngubwale's out of the picture. Damian Pierce is out of the picture. Is Joe Mixon even alive? We haven't gotten an update on this dude in how long at this point. So Pat said it, Chubb, outside of that nice touchdown at the end of week 2, that maybe they actually just let him go ahead and score on. Really has looked like Marks has been the better RB. So I do think the Texans are a bad team. Should be, in comeback mode more games than not. I do think that is going to fit Mark. So, no, he's not going to be this 25 carry guy on the ground. But, again, he is my number 1 RB waiver ad of the week in more leagues than not.
Would you trade Jamar Chase for Tet McMillan and Ashton Genty?
No. If I'm 0-3 and I need to start taking swings, yes. But if I'm sitting 3-0 and I've survived, no. Although I do, it's a nice value, but I feel this is kind of more of it depends on where you are in your standings. If anything, at the same time, you're making that deal, I think you might be able to do a little bit better than Genty.
Yeah, I think it's actually one of these rare trades where it's seemingly pretty fair to both sides. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'd like to come away with the best player in the trade, and that still is Jamar Chase.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's see. We had one more here. Would you drop Trevion Henderson for Trey Benson if that was an option for you? I would.
Yeah, but
you shouldn't. That shouldn't be your scenario. But if it is, I would.
Yeah, I think some of depending on when your waivers run, overpay. See, this is what I think people don't do enough. Also, overpaying to trade. Send a 2-for-1 where it's like, man, this sucks. I don't want to give up this much, but you're dropping talent anyway. So even if it's not Henderson and you trade 2 other pieces just to free up that spot, it's better than just letting free value go out there to waivers.
Yeah, I'm doing that in a heartbeat. If you have to, okay? I wish you have, a wide receiver 6 or a backup QB, but yeah, Trey Benson over Trevion for sure.
Coming up after this, we're going to get to the rest of the positional ranks. We're going to be taking more of your questions, not start sit, because that's what the rankings are for, and you can just hit those down in the description. But what I need you to do is smash the like for this episode, and don't forget, you can watch all of this on demand after the fact on the Mayo Media YouTube channel or on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts on the Pat Mayo Experience. Right after this, we'll be talking wide receiver rankings. Stay tuned. Now that I'm old, I've had to come to the fact that I just don't bounce back the way that I used to. I don't wake up in the morning feeling normal. And now that football season has started, that is absolutely unacceptable. I got work to do in the morning, and I got kids that are waking up. It's no good. But that isn't a problem anymore because I found ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, invented by PhD scientists to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for the rough days after drinking. pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol the first drink of your night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel the best tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/PatMayo to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Pat Mayo at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/PatMayo and use the code PatMayo at checkout for 15% off. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/PatMayo and get on your way to being your best self. Sometimes we turn to some funny places for support, but not everyone's a therapist. Not everyone is the one. Find your right match with BetterHelp. What you need to do is actually talk to a quality therapist, and BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. It's also completely online. You can pause your subscription whenever you need to and switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PatMayo. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PatMayo. Johnnie Walker, a brand synonymous with the game of golf for over a century, is bringing bold energy to golf's fiercest stage and ultimate rivalry with the Spirit of the Cup, a fan-first program that celebrates national pride, fandom, and the relentless spirit of competition. The program invites a new generation of fans to experience golf through modern rituals, bold collaborations, and culture-forward experiences. Leading into the tournament weekend, Johnnie Walker will bring the Spirit of the Cup tour to the streets of New York City from Wednesday, September 24th through Sunday, September 28th. As a part of Johnnie Walker's commitment to making golf straight up more fun, the experience is open to the public, offering golf lovers and inspiring golfers to chip their way to glory while sipping signature Johnnie Walker cocktails. Drink responsibly. We are back. Wide receiver rankings from our good friend Ian Hartitz at fantasylife.com will be up on the screen the entire time we're talking here. Plus, you can get his entire list down in the description. Additionally, you can get all of Jake Ciely's rankings down in the description and mine in the free Mayo Media newsletter and for free up on 4for4.com. So you can just go compare them all if you like. Additionally, I got a 50% off code for you for all of the 4for4 premium products, especially Sharp Stack for projections, rankings, prop bets, spreads, whatever it might be, and it's all sports. You can get it. Go use code MAYO50 right now at 4for4.com. Get a free 7-day trial and 50% off the monthly if you want to go do that. Ian, your wide receiver rankings shouldn't come as a shock to anyone that Puka Nacua is coming out on top right now. He's been the best fantasy receiver per game. And now he's number one. JSN, number two against Arizona. Amon-Ra, Nico, Chase, Neighbors, Jefferson, Zay Flowers coming off a very disappointing Monday Night Football game at the Kansas City Chiefs. Ramadunze has been amazing. He is now number 9 in the rankings. Does not get Dallas this week, though, of note. Emeka Egbuka without Mike Evans around at number 10. Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill back up to number 13. Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton, Ricky Bullets at number 16 against Jokesonville. You got George Pickens, Ted McMillan without CeeDee Lamb around, Drake London, Jacoby Myers, DK Metcalf, Ladd McConkey, who?
That's about where the circle of trust is. And by the way, again, I got by the Monday Night Football fairies. Zay Flowers will be a few spots lower every freaking season with this guy. As soon as I feel good enough to, again, bump him up into the wide receiver 1 ranks, he puts one of those duds forward. So it's a crowded offense. Obviously, Rashad Bateman got his. So not exactly, wouldn't be having him outside the top 20 or anything, but certainly would be fine bumping the Roma Dunzes and the Mecca Bukas of the world a little bit higher.
So here's what we got for injuries right now, Jake. CeeDee Lamb's probably out 2 to 4 weeks, maybe even longer with a high ankle sprain. Mike Evans probably not playing this week with his hamstring injury. Chris Godwin could play this week. We'll wait and see how practice goes for him. McLaurin, we don't know yet whether or not this quad injury is serious or not. Wednesday's practice should tell us a bit of a story on that. Alec Pierce sustained a concussion. He's probably not going to be in. I'm guessing Juwan Jennings is going to be back for the 49ers. If he played 2 weeks ago, missed this week, that week off should be enough to get him back in, especially with Brock Purdy likely to return in week 4 as well. Josh Reynolds, who knows, who cares? Xavier Worthy, probably going to be in for the Chiefs, but wait and see on that one. Xavier Legette missed last week with a hamstring injury. Hamstrings do tend to linger, so maybe not this week against the Patriots. Noah Brown, no one cares. And then the big one here over in Ireland, Jake, the man who suffered from Dom Toretto syndrome, Jordan Addison, is eligible to return at wide receiver.
Wow. Which just made me think of that GIF or that video that Ian put out earlier today from, what was the guy's movie? What the heck?
Aim for the bushes.
Yeah, they Aim for the Bushes with The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, which never thought that would be in my head this morning. The bigger one I want to go back to is I think we almost kind of need a flow chart for the Buccaneers because we're assuming Mike Evans is out. So if it's Mike Evans is out but Godwin comes back, I would expect him to be eased in, which means it's Igbukah and then we don't really want to start anybody else, maybe Godwin or Shepard if you're desperate. But if Evans is somehow back out there, then you really only trust Igbukah because you have the injury risk of Evans, and it's not going to matter that Godwin's. So if there is no Godwin, though, and no Mike Evans, then Sterling Shepard, I'd probably put him in a wide receiver 4 range. I still wouldn't trust him that much. We've done this before with Shepard. Shepard's limited, especially at this point of his career. But where he has Igbukah, assuming there's no Mike Evans, and forget the Godwin part of that, but you can see why it's kind of a flow charty situation. I think where he has Igbukah is quality. My only concern would be if there is no Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's limited coming back, the Eagles secondary can hone in on Igbukah, and that's a tough matchup.
I hope we at least get Tristan Wirfs back in that Buccaneers offense because that has been the problem. Down 3 starters on the offensive line. We haven't seen the booms coming from the passing game the same way. I mean, Baker hasn't even hit 235 passing yards in a game. So if it is going to be centralized enough with Igbukah, I just think that volume is going to win out. They can get in some screens and stuff like that. But yeah, man, really has been a situation where outside of a few just awesome connections from Baker to Igbukah down the sideline, saw it last week, saw it on those 2 touchdowns in week 1. A little bit of a, underperforming Buccaneers offense. Again, I would like to think the offensive line is going to get going, but Bucky Irving's another one of these guys. I know we're talking wide receivers, but can the man average 3.5 yards per carry out here? Really has been tough sledding in Tampa.
Going down the rankings a little bit more after we get to Drake London at number 9. Would you consider Drake London still reliable at the moment, considering Penix can't throw it to anyone?
No, I think that's why I think it's a buy low. Yeah, I think this is a buy low. You want to talk about somebody taking it, throwing them under the bus. Ike Hilliard got fired for them, the wide receivers coach, which I got to think Ike Hilliard is no we're going to remember him 50 years from now, but it's not like he was a slouch in the NFL. It's not like Ike Hilliard's some of these random coaches that are coaching out wide receivers out there. So they threw him under the bus. It's why not the offensive coordinator? So I put that all to say is there's something off. They see something that's not working with Penix right now. I'm not going to put it on London. I think it is Penix, as you mentioned, Pat. If you watch the first 3 games, he doesn't look like he did for the last 3 games last year. He is still looking London's way, and we do like the fact that they're using Kyle Pitts differently and letting him use his body to get open versus trying to ask him to run our open route because he can't do that. But something's not clicking there. So I would still buy low on Drake London just because the volume, it's kind of like to go Ian's point earlier with Calvin Ridley. It's been gross so far, but you're still one of the highest targeted wide receivers and target shares in the league. It's going to come around at some point.
Yeah, his 6-game target pace now, again, just based on what we saw at the end of last year and into this year, would be a 17-game pace of 187 targets. So I think he'll get there. It just hasn't been the same Michael Penix. He's been much less of a gunslinger. His ADOTs dropped 3 yards compared to last year. This season, among quarterbacks with at least 5 deep ball attempts, only Penix and Trevor Lawrence have yet to complete even one pass on at least 20 yards downfield. So I do think we'll see some, level of regression in a good way there. And honestly, I was looking at the Yahoo trade market, and they actually show you trades that have happened with Drake London. And I actually would take the Drake London side for 1v1 trades that included Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Alvin Kamara.
Well, DJ Moore, 100%. That guy doesn't do anything.
Well, catch a touchdown.
I suppose. Well, I got some trade scenarios for you. I can answer these first two myself, and then I'm going to throw the third one to you guys. Devontae Adams for Justin Jefferson? Yes, get Justin Jefferson. Good trade. Chuba Hubbard and Lad McConkey for Rashee Rice. Should I do it? You want Lad and Chuba Hubbard, not Rashee Rice. Rice is fine. Lad McConkey's probably still better, even though he has the slow start. Here's the one for you guys. Worthy and Franklin combined for T. Higgins.
Ooh.
I come on Worthy's side.
Yeah. I don't know that Worthy, even when Rice comes back, is going to be that much worse than T. Higgins, where you get the free flyer. And Troy Franklin was still the two, like still clearly the two. Marvin Mims was still down at 50-some-odd% of their routes. It's just, this is what happens. I broke it out. I'm not going to be like, oh, look at me at the Athletic. But I broke out 5 wide receivers in the waivers that were right behind. So there was one, Alec Ayumanner was the number 1. And then there was 5 wide receivers, Romeo Doubs, Troy Franklin, Cedric Tillman. And there was like 2 other names, obviously, with them that I'm spacing on right now. But the point is that they're wide receiver 4s. They're a top 2 option on their team, but they're wide receiver 4s. Wide receiver 4s come with 5-point games. They also produce 15 to 20-point games at some point. I think the problem with fantasy is people see the 15-point games from these wide receiver 4s and then think that's the reality and get frustrated when they get the 5s. That's why they're wide receiver 4s and not wide receiver 2s.
I like the sound of that. Okay, so going back down the rankings a little bit more, Drake London at 19, Myers at number 20. Then you got DK, Ladd, Brian Thomas Jr., Debo Samuel Senor at number 24. Jamison Williams, Quentin Johnston, Devontae Smith, Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle. I'm starting to not feel good about any of these names in the 30s again. I also see Cedric Tillman. Where's Tillman?
Like I got to after Keenan, it gets tough. I got the Packers wide receivers just in the nuts, spot here this week against the Cowboys. So I do think Dobbs and Golden could give us something because again, just the amount of wide open wide receivers that continuously run through that Cowboys defense really is hilarious. But I'm with you, man. And again, I had a lot of these running backs actually ahead of the wide receivers in this range because I do think again they're better flex options with more guaranteed volume. So we'll see what happens. Terry McLaurin had that quad injury. Honestly, I thought he scored a touchdown. I'm kind of surprised they even overturned it in the first place. I thought he was on top of that Raiders player as he was reaching across the goal line. So we'll see what happens there. That's another potential buy low guy, though, because again, as much as Debo's certainly making his presence felt, once we do get Jaden Daniels back, it's still Terry who's going to be the leader in terms of getting those fantasy-friendly downfield targets. So Terry, and then Chris Olave, again, just with that ridiculous target share going on, he has been more reliable this year. His average target depth is actually under 10 yards now. So again, it'd be cool if he scored a touchdown at one of these days. He leads the NFL in targets without a touchdown, but at the same time, pretty nice enough, nice floor in PPR.
Let me do the Pat Mayo here. So, because you have Terry McLaurin in your ranks, where would you move Debo without Terry? Because I would put him all the way up I would play him in front of Teteroa McMillan.
Yeah, that's about right. Him and George Pickens next to each other, Ricky Parasol there. If Jawan Jennings is going to be out again, I think that makes sense.
So
I think Jennings is going to be back this week. So let's say Jennings is back this week. Would you move him ahead of Ricky Bullets?
That being Debo or that being Jennings?
Yeah, Jennings. I would play Jennings ahead of Pearsall.
I would too, but I wouldn't put him in Pearsall's spot.
No, they both go down into that probably wide receiver 29-30 spot. I put them right next to each other. Again, Pearsall's made the most out of his opportunities, but we have seen, again, a larger sample. Jennings just outperform them. They've been together.
To your question here, Pat, I will say, like, if I knew Jennings was going to play the entire game, I'd probably put him in front of Drake London. It's just, this is nagging through 3 weeks now. It's been something every single week. So I think that's my concern. Mine, the only pushback I would have on Ian's ranks is I would push back DK Metcalf. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to die against the Vikings. Like we just saw what they did last week. Metcalf is under 6 yards per air yards. Like I brought that up last week, is that what Khalil Shakir was the best wide receiver in fantasy last year, averaging under 6 air yards per target, and he was only wide receiver 44. And I do think Metcalf will be better than that, but against this Vikings defense, I'm scared for Aaron Rodgers' life in this game.
With CeeDee Lamb out, Ian, obviously George Pickens would elevate to wide receiver 1 in this offense. Are you interested in any of the other Dallas receivers? Maybe not this week against Green Bay, knowing how good their defense can be, but just going forward if Lamb does miss time.
Not especially. I mean, Jalen Torbert will be getting some level of volume, but I just don't think that guy is good at football at all. I mean, based on just what we've seen during his short career, it really is a tough scene. Again, anytime Dak is throwing the ball. I think Kevontae Turpin is probably the most explosive playmaker on this Cowboys team. Now, again, because he is like 150 pounds soaking wet, he's someone that you can't exactly expect to have a full-time role. But they've done a pretty good job this year already getting him, 5 to 7 targets and carries. Always got the chance, too, for him to house one of those kick returns, get you a nice 6 points there. And I do think in some of these leagues, guys, I met them 14 teams. You got 3 flex spots. You can do worse than having a playmaker like that down there. So I would say Kevontae Turpin, if anyone, would be the guy to throw a chip on.
The beneficiary is Jake Ferguson, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now he can have 23 catches for 71 yards.
PPR, baby.
It was actually, I was going to say, I forget who tweeted it out. It was the worst 12 reception yardage in since it's been tracked.
He's got 120 straight targets without a touchdown. The last time he scored a touchdown was in that wild card game against the Packers. So maybe now that's going to be what it takes.
Would you trade Worthy and Franklin for Pickens? I would not.
No, because again, we're doing Worthy versus Pickens. It's like they're so similar that I would just take the extra free player.
Yeah, let's see. Any chance Algier is getting traded? Only one run in a blowout? I would say absolutely not.
Nah, I doubt it. I don't even know what.
Only one run in a blowout. I mean, that's just because they were behind.
Yeah.
If it was the blowout the other way, he would have had like 12.
If Godwin was going to play, let's say we knew that going in right now. Let's say, Tampa Bay has activated Chris Godwin. There's no Mike Evans. Who would you start him over? Would you start him over like Jerry Jeudy or Wendell Robinson? Like I'm just actively not playing Jerry Jeudy, so you can play basically. I almost consider Cooper Kupp, who sucks, over Jerry Jeudy at this point. But like Tillman's way too low. Obviously, Judy's way too high. Like we need to split those guys up. Tillman's way better. Real life fantasy doesn't matter what it is. Jeudy drops 5 passes a game.
I need to get Tillman in my Jacoby Myers spot where just for this show, I pushed him up the ranks so I can shut Pat up. And
Pat doesn't
we're done,
every
I can move him back down.
Where does Thornton, where would you put Godwin? And where does Thornton rank if Godwin comes back? Because I do think that the one thing that the Chiefs have found offensively is that there is a role for Tyquan Thornton in this offense because he does the one thing that none of their other receivers do, including Worthy and including Rice, that he's a legitimate big body downfield presence.
Yeah,
I don't think I would be moving Thornton really down, even if Worthy is going to be returning this situation. Again, we saw at the very literal end last season in the second half of the Super Bowl, Mahomes start to get on the same page with Worthy, but more so that second half boom was far more him taking those lower 8-out Rashid Rice sorts of routes. So I'm with you, Pat. I think in terms of just deep ball targets of 20-plus yards downfield, Thornton has an NFL high 11 on the season. Like only Malik Neighbors has more air yards than this guy. Chiefs wide receivers and the team just combined only has 4. So I think Thornton's role is actually pretty safe and here to stay. And accordingly, man, boomer bust, wide receiver 4, maybe in the right matchup, wide receiver 3. I think he was safe for him.
Yeah, I would put him in that wide receiver 4 conversation I was talking about before, but until Rice comes back. That's because now it's going to be Rice and Worthy, and now he's that boomer bust wide receiver 4, which you can go back to the Nate Washingtons and even Westbrook Akina from last year. Like all these options where like, yeah, it's going to happen. And in a 14-team league that like Ian was talking about before, he probably slots in as your wide receiver 4 because you're just going to take that ceiling, but it's going to be even more sparsed out than it was before. And it's going to be almost impossible to predict when those games are going to happen. So you have to understand like, yeah, I want Thornton. And Thornton was in basically, I think he was like 7th or 8th in my wide receiver waiver rankings. He would be higher if Worthy or Rice wasn't coming back, but we're probably getting Worthy this week, if not next. And then Rice is a few weeks away from coming back from suspension. So it's just the matter of he's going to fall to number 3 as a wide receiver. And as number 3 wide receivers have shown, it's almost impossible to have. I'll give you a better comparison. He's Rashad Bateman once they're both back. Obviously with bigger downfield threat.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think he makes an adequate, like, low, even if he's the number 3. It's not like yes, on Sunday night he was used as their, like, wide receiver 1. But realistically, on this pecking order from the weeks that we've seen, sometimes he is the wide receiver 3 already. That I don't think that his role is going to change all that much, even when Rice and Worthy do come back. Maybe, like, if it's only downfield targets that we're concerned about, which we are, I don't see those guys stealing those from him. The only thing that we would have is maybe those other 2 guys get open so they don't have to jam it down the field to him.
No, but
it
you
could
have
be
significant
annoying.
snap share. concerns.
Yeah, it could be annoying if we see Hollywood Brown continue to stay involved and then Taekwon all of a sudden becomes a part-time player. That would be the issue. I hope they just get Hollywood Brown's corpse out of here and they actually go with Rice, Worthy, and Thornton. I do think that would be in the best interest of their football team. But yeah, it becomes a little bit iffy. I think in the near term, though, even with Worthy back for these next 3 weeks before Rice,
yes.
I do think Thornton deserves to be prioritized a little bit more.
Is Trey Tucker a real guy or just once every 2 weeks? Like 2 weeks a year, I mean.
So we should have known this because he did the same thing in week 3 last year. So it's just Trey, week 3, there you go, boom. He's the new Sammy Watkins, except you do it in week 3. He was the same thing since week 3 last year. He was out there average 90% of the time, which he is out there average 90% of the time this year. He's their number 2 wide receiver. That hasn't changed. It's just the fact that he's getting a few more targets this year. But this is still Jacoby Myers. This is still Brock Bowers. So this is what I said in my waiver piece is that if we do think Brock Bowers is the Brock Bowers we've seen so far, which is not the Brock Bowers from last year, it's somebody who's going to end up being a big disappointment for somebody who stayed healthy in fantasy, is that, yeah, Trey Tucker could be a wide receiver 4, but does Bowers bounce back? Because then Trey Tucker still being the number 3, it's just going to be inconsistent. He's a wide receiver 4. Put him in the names with Romeo Doubs, with Cedric Tillman and all the rest. But understand, like, his role hasn't really changed. He's just seen a few more opportunities this year because Bowers is struggling out of the gate.
Should we put any sort of belief, Ian, into Parker Washington's 11 targets on Sunday?
Nah, I don't think so, man. He was racking up again these unrealized air yards and stuff. But at the end of the day, you would like to think this Jaguars offense is going to get going through BTJ and Hunter. But guys, I came up with a new thing this week, all right? They have the Mendoza line in baseball, 200 average. We need the spike line in football, okay? That is the passer rating that you get for spiking the ball into the ground. It's 39.6. The only 4 wide receivers with the passer rating when targeted under the spike line, BTJ, Travis Hunter, Jerry Jeudy, and Xavier Legette. Get it together, Jacksonville. Come on.
Here, I'll give you one more. More fantasy points than Trevor Lawrence so far. Russ Wilson, Spencer Rattler, Bryce Young, Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels in 2 games, and Mac Jones in 2 games only has 2 fewer fantasy points.
Which seems strange because I think that pass rate over expectation for the Jags is way higher than like whatever their neutral great game script would dictate. So we're going to get a Trevor Lawrence 400-yard game. I just have no idea when it's ever going to come.
And it might come with 0 touchdowns.
That'd be awful. And we can't even trust him at the goal line. Which running back to give it to at this point?
Both getting them. T-Law has dealt with the most drops in the NFL in his defense, but man, how many freaking years do we have to continue to look at this Jaguars offense not being able to supply high-end pass game results without eventually just pointing the finger at T-Law? So I will say the run game looks good under Liam Cohen. Similar sentiment in Chicago. I mean, they've been opening up holes for the guys. Swift obviously not making much of it there, but certainly left a lot to be desired there in the passing game. So long story short, Pat, no, I do not believe in Parker Washington.
There is a guy in the chat who is just desperately trying to trade this package of Xavier Worthy and Troy Franklin. It went from like George Pickens and T. Higgins. Now he's asking if it should be like A.J. Brown or Amon-Ra. Yes to those last 2 guys. By the way, if people will take your poo-poo package of those ones.
He's doing the problem of what everybody tries to do. And I want this player, and I want to give up these players. What can I get? It doesn't work that way.
Lee did mention, and this is something I did want to bring up, if you're looking for flyers to start, Torrey Horton looks pretty good for the Seahawks. He's finding ways, like even with the kick return last week, scored the touchdown the week before, he's finding ways to get involved in this offense. And they need someone who's not JSN to catch a ball.
And that's why I would actually, if I'm looking for upside, I would take Torrey Horton over Trey Tucker. Because if I'm looking for pure upside, Trey Tucker needs an injury to be the consistent 2. Like Brock Bowers, even like I said, even if Brock Bowers is completely like mediocre this year, there's still 3 options there with your boy Jacoby Myers. The difference with Horton is we have 2 bad games from Kupp and 1 good one. The Seahawks could actually look at this and even say it's not even the bad games, but let's keep Kupp healthy. Only run him out there in 3 wide, 11 sets, and Torrey Horton becomes the 2. So similar to other like running backs where we talk about situations like they don't need the injury to potentially have the ceiling to surpass the person in front of them. Torrey Horton's in a situation where you could say he doesn't need an injury to become the number 2 for that team. And if he is the number 2, then stock up there. So there are names I have in front of him in the waivers, including Tucker and Thornton and stuff like that. But his path is that he could just play himself into the number 2 role going forward.
Question for you, Ian. If Christian Gonzalez returns this week for the Patriots, and that's a big if based on the way his hamstring has been going. Let's say he's back and they stick him on Tet McMillan. Then we would like Tet McMillan less. There's probably not going to be a Leggett. Jatavion Sanders is out with a high ankle sprain. Who would stand to benefit the most on the Panthers if they have to funnel passes everywhere? Is it Renfrow? Is it David Moore? Is it Bryson Tremaine? Or do we care about any of these guys?
No, I think it's Renfrow. I mean, he's only 1 week removed from that 2-touchdown game. Probably going to be, the runner-up for comeback player of the year behind Daniel Jones. So we'll see what happens there. But I think it would be Renfrow. We still got at least, 1 more week with Jalen Coker on the IR. So he would honestly be another guy where I know in a bunch of my deeper, skank leagues where the waiver wire pickings are slim, I have seen a lot of Jalen Coker, being left out there. He does profile as the second best wide receiver on this team once he is good to go. But yeah, for this week, I would say Renfrow's a pretty good call.
If anyone out there would like to be a hero, smash the like to this episode right now. If you got questions and you want to get involved in the chat, gotta be sub for any length to Mayo Media Network. So please go do that now. Let's talk tight ends because we got some tight end injuries to run through. Michael Mayer suffered a concussion against the Commanders last week. He's probably not going to play. I just mentioned Jatavion Sanders. He's out multiple weeks with a high ankle sprain. Isaiah likely should asterisks return for Baltimore against Kansas City this week, where he couldn't keep it. It's a foot injury because he couldn't keep his foot in bounds in week 1 last year to win that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Colston Loveland has a hip injury he did not return from last week against Dallas. Evan Ingram didn't play last week. Neither did Will Disley. And George Kittle's probably out at least 1 more week, probably more. So when we get to Ian's tight end rankings for the week, once again, half-point PPR, you got the only man who's healthy in the world, Trey McBride, at number 1, and caught a touchdown. Who is this guy? Brock Bowers at 2, although he's still banged up, has not looked good since sustaining that injury. Tyler Warren, Tucker Kraft, Jake Ferguson at 5, Jawan Johnson, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, Dalton Kincaid. Then you're into Pitts, Njoku, Fannin, Hunter Henry, Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, and he of 2 touchdowns last night before you made these rankings, Ian, Mark Andrews.
I know. As soon as we put Andrews on the bench, he just decides to absolutely ball out and do his thing. So good for him. And now with Isaiah likely coming back, it's obviously going to be shrinking that. But knowing Mark Andrews, probably it won't stop the guy. So again, it is pretty rough in terms of like where we would draw the circle of trust line. I'd say probably only after Jawan Johnson. I'd like to include Sam Laporta, but there's so many, capable mouths in that Lions offense pause that I do think it's a situation where he's tough to rely on quite as much there. So really is just a 6-person, race, I would say, for the top right now.
That's where I would go to. I'd probably bump up Goddard against Tampa Bay, Jake. That's about it.
I guess if you want to bump him up, you don't mean the circle of trust, right? Just bump
No.
him up.
I just mean would I rather play Goddard or Njoku right now? Probably Goddard.
Yeah. I can see that. And Njoku's been getting targets. He actually has 18 targets. He's got 5, 6, and 7. Is that the math right? Yeah. So I think it's not that order, but he's getting the targets. He's a fine kind of mid-play and half PPR, but I mean, that's just what that situation is when you're splitting with Fannin. So I only bring that up because people are like, should I drop Njoku? And it's like, for what? It's tight end. Like, if you want to chase Chigakonkwo, cool, whatever. I want to ask you, Pat, though, if you were still doing worst place, would Mark Andrews now be the holder of the Jared Cook worst place? Because he feels like he should be.
Oh, yeah. With no way I would own Mark Andrews or ever start Mark Andrews. Just, it would be maddening. Like, I mean, Jared, tell the people what happened to you.
Dropped him this week because of Ian's rankings. They were so low. They were so low.
Okay.
I drafted him because he was so high pre-draft. He looked so good. Yeah, dropped him immediately. Thankfully, I picked up the Cowboys tight end Ferguson. That was okay. But it is fucking maddening.
He had 2 receptions for 7 yards in the first 2 games. Like,
I'm not blaming you, Ian. It's okay.
This is the tight end problem.
That's what I'm here for.
I'm 0-3.
Yeah.
It's fine. Not a big deal.
Other ones I'd look at down this list, like if Evans is out and Godwin is banged up, it's like every other week that Baker decides to throw to Cade Otton. So maybe against Philly, that could be a look. John has been okay. Brenton Strange was 6 for 66 with 7 targets. He has like the highest ADOT of downfield targets of anyone on Jacksonville right now, which is just really strange. So like those would be guys that I'd bump up. Like I'd play those guys over Chig and Andrews. Hawkinson, maybe. Like Hawkinson legit didn't do anything, Jake, in that game until they got up by a ton.
Yeah, which was really weird that's when it happened too. And now you have Addison coming back. So I'm not, but that's the thing. It's tight end. So how do we want to move Hawkinson down? Like where? Like you would still start him over Andrews with likely back. Like it's just this bucket of, hell. Look at the fact that the names that finished as tight end ones last week because they caught a damn touchdown. So really, it's the top 6. And then here, this is what I tell everybody from my ranks, Ian. This is just after the top 6, do whatever the bleep you want. It's tight end. Like I don't care.
Pretty much, man.
Yeah, Juwan Johnson's good though. Like he's someone you're just going to want to have in your lineup every week for a solid 11 points.
Especially for as long as Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill stay out of the picture. Both guys are on IR. So I'm not saying that we should be, selling high or anything like that because I think his role is going to be mostly here to stay. But, the Spencer Rattler experience obviously took a step back. I do worry a little bit if we see him go from Rattler to Shuck. Maybe things aren't going to be as reasonably okay as they have been so far. So I get a little bit worried with expecting it, for the entire season with Juwan. But definitely so far so good.
Look at this. Last week. Tight end ones, Chigakonku, Jack Stoll, Drew Sample, John Fitzpatrick, and then by a half point just missed being a tight end one, the host of the late show, Josh Oliver.
Oh, wow. I remember Cuss was freaking out because he started Hawkinson. He saw Oliver catch that touchdown. He thought it was Hawkinson. Then he started celebrating, and then it wasn't.
I'm sorry. I'm just picturing separately like that's the T celebrating and not because he realizes how bad things are.
Well, that was the Eagles thing for all those years. Ertz and Goddard, you could never tell who actually caught the ball until, you heard the announcer say it. So yeah, man, too many teams with 2 white tight ends out there.
So here's some questions, some tight end related, some not tight end related. Would you trade Pickens for McLaurin? I would.
Yes.
I think I prefer Pickens.
Pickens kind of reeks, man.
He's got 68 yards and a touchdown in back-to-back weeks. Do you hate fantasy points?
Listen, he doesn't get to play the Bears and the Giants every week, man.
Yeah, that's part of it. Hey, he's got the short-term window. I would take the short-term over the long-term. If you know your league is super active in trades, actually, that's where I would agree with Ian in the fact that, like, if I know I can have Pickens right now and I know I could sell high in 2 weeks when people are overreacting in my league, then I would do that. But I would rather have McLaurin for the rest of the season.
I think we saw it last year. Even without Debo, Terry had, 120 targets in 17 games. Like, him and Pickens are going to have pretty similar targets. I'll take, the short-term peak when we're comparing them.
Thoughts on this trade? What side do you like better? Do you like McConkey and Karen Williams, who might be someone else, who knows? Put those two together and trade them for Gibbs and Judkins. I like the Gibbs and Judkins side.
It's a good trade. Like, pretty even, I would say, both sides. By the way, so much for... Yeah, so much for Blake Corum taking Kyron's job, huh? They're going to feed him 20 touches per game into perpetuity, guys. Stop it with this.
Thank you. I don't know why we have to bring this up every damn week and every damn season. It's just like, it's so ridiculous. Look, I will say that one really comes down to a team makeup because the best player is Gibbs, but the other side has the second and third best player, and then Judkins is the fourth. And it's not a huge gap, but
We lose Jake?
I'll take the Gibbs side all day long.
Okay, Jake is back. Good news. Keenan Allen and Mark Andrews for Garrett Wilson? Yes.
Yeah.
Garrett, yeah.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 6. How about that?
It's funny that, remember I joked before the season that the Jets would be better with Tyrod and they might bench Fields? I don't think they're going to do it, but they should.
How good the Fields look in week 1, and then we say, oh, that was nothing. That was the real Fields in week 2. He's a roller coaster, yeah, but guess what? Roller coasters have some highs, just like Justin Fields does sometimes.
Yeah, but if I have fantasy guys, if I have Garrett Wilson, I want Tyrod playing quarterback.
You know what pisses me off, though? Because Tyrod was doing nothing in that game until the fourth quarter, which is fine. But, I go through this and I go, oh, does Tyrod suck? And then I'm forced to remember the NPCs that the Jets are trotting out there next to Garrett Wilson. We're, hopeful that Josh Reynolds could get back. Allen Lazard caught a touchdown last week. Arian Smith is still getting targets. Would it kill you guys to have a reasonable wide receiver, too? I guess we'll never know.
Go trade for Jaden Higgins. The Texans aren't using him.
Do you like Isaiah Likely if he does play this week? I'd probably give him a week.
I don't want Isaiah Likely, period. Again, it's tight end. Do whatever the hell you want. But he's going to have 4 good games. You tell me when they're going to happen. Cool, you can start him.
Is Hunter Henry too low at 14 against Carolina?
No, because Hunter Henry is Hunter Henry.
Yeah, but I mean, just look at some of the, what makes him markedly different than Zach Ertz?
His volume's a little bit more inconsistent than Zach Ertz. A little bit more, but Okay, again, but we're also in a tier where like we're already in the Sam Laporta, Kelsey, all the way down to Goddard and Andrews. Pick your poison.
All right, let's move.
No, I was saying, even in my write-up of these rankings, which you can find for free at fantasylife.com, if we do see another game with Henry again, really dominating targets, I will be forced to begrudgingly move him up. This is my fault. I slandered Henry all offseason for never having a career year with over 700 yards. Now he's going to put up a tight end one season. So you guys are all welcome who drafted Henry.
Hey, I got that one right. I got the Jake Browning call last week wrong, but I got that one right.
Quarterback rankings this week, obviously. Jake Browning is starting again for the Bengals. Jaden Daniels, questionable. I'm guessing he's not playing. I'm guessing Justin Fields is playing. Ditto with Brock Purdy, and J.J. McCarthy is going to be out. Would you guys differ on that at all? Do you think Purdy's not going to play, Fields is not going to play, and maybe Jaden Daniels does?
Fields has till Monday night. I feel like he can progress through the protocol by then. I hear you on Daniels. I would lean, especially after Mariota played. I feel like when teams see the backup quarterback actually go out there and win a football game, they're more likely to maybe give it an extra week.
I can't wait to lose money betting on the Falcons this week against Washington. It's going to be glorious.
Mariota revenge game.
I love that what Ian said there, too, is this is kind of telling when it comes to running backs and even backup, I put that in quote, wide receivers, is that when the backup option is playing significantly well, like really good, and they bring the other player back, that tells you it's pretty much ready to roll. So that's why I want to bring that up in general. So I would say that if they do bring back Daniels this week, there's going to be limitations on Daniels' game.
Let's take a look at the the quarterback rankings. Allen, Lamar, Hurts, Herbert, Caleb Williams. There's your top 5. Drake May, Jordan Love, Daniel Jones, Patrick Mahomes, and Kyler Murray. That's 10. Geno, Baker, Nix, Purdy, Dak, Goff, Stafford, Darnold, Mariota, and Tyrod Taylor coming in at number 20, but that could be Fields. You probably don't need to go out of your way to do that. Anyone from below that ranking, Jake, that you see in Ian's rankings that you would bump up?
Not significantly. I think that, Tua, look, he's thrown a touchdown in every single game since some point in 2023. If you want a floor play against the Jets over risking Lawrence in San Francisco, that's the only way I would go with it. It's just if you want the floor quarterback play would be the only way I would go. If you still look, I said this on my recap pod. I pulled the GIF from Batman, the Michael Caine GIF. You trusted me. I led you wrong. I'm sorry. I would still put Jake Browning around 17, 18. He still has top 10 ceiling. He's still probably going to get killed behind that offensive line, but I'm still going to play the fact of I just rather do it over CJ Stroud at this point. I'd rather do it
in
over
Denver, though.
I don't care. Again, what is CJ Stroud going to do? CJ Stroud at this point, CJ Stroud looks like, and this is a CJ Stroud supporter saying this, he looks like the version of a quarterback in the NFL that if you have a good offensive line, you're going to look great. If you don't, you're trash. And that's true of a lot of quarterbacks. The difference is you still need to look good when you have a bad offensive line or questionable weapons. You need to take that next step forward. He hasn't done that. He has the one good rookie season, which he didn't even throw a ton of touchdowns, but he had time that year. The last 2 seasons, well, a season and a half, I would risk Browning over Stroud. I would risk him over Bryce Young only because it's Patriots, and definitely against Penix. Penix has looked like trash. So I would put him in kind of like the Tyrod range. Like Tyrod's floor, ceiling's Browning. Even if it goes wrong, it's just the ceiling.
I can't get with you on that one in Denver, man. I just can't do it.
I said this is boom or bust.
I'd rather play garbage time Flacco in Detroit.
And there's probably going to be a lot of garbage time for Browning in this game.
Yeah,
I got Flacco that low just because of the potential for him to get yanked at this point. He's been really bad this year. And honestly, the fact that he has been so bad and we've still seen guys like Fannin give us something, Cedric Tillman catching touchdowns more weeks than not, and Judkins doing his thing, it actually makes me feel like maybe if we do go to Gabriel or even, Shador Sanders at a certain point, we can see these guys somewhat keep on keeping on. Because again, I would have expected far more success through the air for Flacco. We were talking in August about how he freaking was leading the NFL in passing yards per game in his actual full starts. Just hasn't been the case so far this year.
I believe he still is leading in passing attempts.
Is he?
Oh, man.
He was. I mean, I kept betting his over for the first 3 weeks, and it hit each of the first 3 weeks. I think he's been in the 40s every single week.
I'm going to look it up right now because now I'm super curious.
I think Dak leads in attempts, but Flacco's probably up there.
Let's see, Flacco, he only had 36 against Green Bay, and that was a game where, They should have
he's
just
tied. He's tied with Dak at 126.
Yeah, 45, 45, and 36. So 36 was his down week. Like, if you just need volume, bad volume, Joe Flacco's got you covered in
You
that
see
sense.
who's number 3 and 4?
Bryce is up there, right?
Because of that 55 attempts in week 2. Yeah, he's 4th. Spencer Rattler's 3.
I can see that. I mean, they're the only team in the NFL who has yet to have a possession offensively where they've been winning a game.
And
So
he's
sad.
got more fantasy points. He's got 7 more.
He was playing some all right football before last week in his defense. I think they had going back to week 18 of last season. The Saints had 3 straight games where they at least had a chance to, tie or take the lead on their last drive. So they were like, a somewhat competitive bad, and the wheels obviously fell off in Seattle. So we'll see how things go.
This is where we open the floor to everyone. If they do have questions, you put them in the chat right now. You smash the like while you're here, too. If you're watching, help us out. But you need to be a sub to Mayo Media Network in order to get them. If you're looking for any of our defensive ratings, mine will come out on Wednesday. Sub to the free Mayo Media newsletter down in the description. The only one that I was thinking about that's widely available if you want to beat the waivers, if you're in a deep league defensively, Jake, is the Patriots.
I had the Patriots. Yeah, I had the Patriots on my list. I'm like trying to think of. There was
I had the Titans as well. Like, if you're super desperate against just anyone against Houston, I think is a pretty good
My
start.
49ers are ruined. Nick Bosa done for the year, so now we got to get back in these streets. I think the Patriots are a pretty good call. You're going to have to figure out something for literally next week because they face the Bills. But even after that, okay, right now they got the Panthers, the Bills, that sucks. But then it's Saints, Titans, Browns,
That's who it
Falcons,
was.
Buccaneers, Jets, Bengals, Giants. I mean, again, the Patriots, that was always kind of I wanted San Fran, and then it was the Patriots and the Cardinals behind them. So hopefully they get Christian Gonzalez back, though, as you said, Pat, because the past he hasn't been good so far.
No,
Yeah, for this week, I have the Chargers and Seahawks, and then the Patriots against Carolina. On the flip side of that game, Pat, the Carolina defense has actually been playing well, getting interceptions actually in every single game, and they get the Patriots, and then they get next week Miami with Tua. Like, this is like super deep. This is like if you really need to roll the dice, but we are talking week 5 where bye weeks are already in check, and then we're talking next week if you're looking ahead, Colts, Rams, Seahawks, if they're out there, it's going to be kind of thin. Their defense is good. Yeah, is it good or bad? Oh, that's bad.
Not as bad as last year's. He's had a hamstring injury every single year dating back to 2019. I will say we've never seen another wide receiver just play through a hamstring injury quite like Mike Evans. Julio was kind of able to do it for a few of those years, but this guy always has something going on.
Multiple weeks might be 2 then, because he only missed 3 last year?
Yeah. Seems like more.
So, yeah. So it's probably 2 games for multiple weeks. So it's actually not that bad of news. Jeremy. Let's see. So he misses the Eagles and Seahawks, comes back possibly for the 49ers. If not, at worst, he comes back for a game in Detroit.
Before, who were I mentioned, like, who were the toughest run defenses? Who were, like, the really bad O-lines besides Vegas? It was Vegas,
Cincinnati.
Houston, Cincinnati.
The Raiders.
The Packers are up there too. Josh Jacobs has had an overwhelming amount of his rush yards after contact. I sent out one yesterday. It was again like this: the percentage of rushing yards that were after contact for these guys. The running backs who are north of 90%. Josh Jacobs, Quinshawn Judkins, Chase Brown is like over 100%. So is Ashton Genty. Marion Hampton and the Chargers, they haven't had a ton of success going. Obviously, has some injuries there as well. And then also the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know we were talking about Jalen Warren not getting much going on the ground, and you are right. But really, again, you look at those rush yards before contact, it has been rough there. But shout out to Jalen Warren anyway, guys. Jalen Warren, Bijan Robinson, only 2 running backs in the NFL, leading their team in rushing and receiving.
Well, that was the one I threw back at you too, and I know you made the threshold 100 rushing yards, but if you included Stevenson at 87, 100% of his yards is after contact because the Patriots line isn't helping there either.
Here are some questions. Where would Daniels rank if he starts this week? Would he be ahead of Caleb Williams, behind Justin Herbert? Would that be a good spot?
He'd be third for me behind Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Like I said, I go back to if they're going to risk him, there's no reason not to just go with Mariota for 1 week. So that means he's ready to go.
Yeah, third or fourth.
Let's see. What could I get back for Derrick Henry? Oh, you need to be a bit more specific than that. Anyone better than Derrick Henry would be a good trade. Superflex League from T. Hamilton, former British Open champion in 2003, Todd Hamilton asks, I need one to start. Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, or Cam Ward? I would start Sam Darnold.
PFF's number one highest graded passer this year. Give me Darnold.
And the Arizona secondary is still super banged up.
Yep.
B Guy says, I have Garrett Wilson. Congratulations. Good pick. And I can trade him for Jamar Chase or CD Lamb at the moment. Which one should I take? I'm 3-0, and I can afford to wait on CD if that matters.
Chase,
because he's not hurt.
Yeah. Is RJ Harvey cooked at this point? Would you drop him for Charbonnet at this point? I would not.
For Charbonnet, yeah.
You would drop him for Charbonnet? I'd wait on him to see if he can overtake Dobbins, because I just don't think Charbonnet is going to overtake Walker.
I think it already happened at the beginning of the season, and then Walker is a ticking time bomb for injury too. Yeah, split like that. I just don't think Dobbins is going anywhere unless he gets hurt.
I do think Harvey could eventually carve out some more pass time work. They finally got Bidet out of the picture last week, but the problem was Dobbins ended up eating into all that workload. None of it actually went to Harvey. So with Charbonnet, the problem is like he is just a pure handcuff. I know he had, again, a decent enough week one, but you're never going to feel good about starting Charbonnet unless when Walker misses time. So it is close, but I just think Harvey has a slightly better path, a la, a Woody Marsh to actually carving out some standalone value.
Do I trade King Tootin for Ramondre Stevenson? I actually would not do that because I think that Tootin's value would explode if there was no ETN.
Something happened to ETN.
This is just kind of it for Ramondre. This is who he is.
Well, that's
going
to go back
different
to Ian's
trajectories.
point. Yeah, and Ian's point there, like to kind of piggyback off of it, if something happens to Stevenson and something happens to ETN, or not Stevenson, something happens to anybody in that backfield, like we've already seen peak Stevenson. If something were to happen to ETN, we would all want Tootin more.
AJ Brown for Jefferson? Who the fuck is offering up these trades? Yeah, take Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
Jesus. Kamara for Mason? Yes. Like, Kamara's kind of in the Tony Pollard zone.
Yeah, I haven't been throwing him the ball as much with Kellen Moore either. That's kind of been his biggest problem.
Aaron Jones is coming back. They have a week 5 bye. He's coming back. He's going to be the pass catching option.
I just think that, listen, we already have an elder statesman in Aaron Jones banged up. That I just think that Mason's you're going to know whether or not you can start Mason or not, whether Aaron Jones is playing or not. And if he is playing and Aaron Jones is out, he's way better than Kamara.
He is, but again, he's coming back. Kamara is still an RB2.
Do you like PPR scam Chris Olave this week, Jake, or do you like George Pickens?
George Pickens.
Ian?
Pickens as well. I like that PPR scam, though. It's the 2025 Wandale.
People are very worried about this Washington backfield. Like, if you had to, is it Bill Krosky-Merritt for you across the board? Like, he's clearly the one that you would want to play, or would it be McNichols, who you can probably still pick up?
I think it's Bill. It'll be Bill eventually. That was a sick touchdown run by McNichols. I'm just confused how Chris Rodriguez goes from being a literal healthy scratch, playing behind Bill Krosky-Merritt, to getting the start. First 4 carries, like, how does that conversation goes? Hey, man, we did not need you at all, but now that Eckler, who doesn't even play your role, is out of the picture. Now you're going to start.
Pacheco. He was Pacheco for the game. He stepped into the Brian Robinson role, albeit a lesser version of it, but he was basically Pacheco, as in he's the lead early down, short yards, and that's why I don't want McNichols at all, because, yeah, cool, great run, great play on there, but we're still got 5 touches, 6 touches, and we're going to get that, maybe if you're desperate. But the answer to what Ian's saying, it is only Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. And even then, he's still an RB3 because they're going full-blown committee. This is what the report was that we did on the preseason when the trade happened for Brian Robinson, when Ben Standig said that, again, Krosky-Merritt played 1 game since 2023. They're going to keep him healthy for the entire season and limit his workload. He was spot on about that.
More questions. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, DUI boy, Jordan Addison, or Terry McLaurin this week? The answer is McLaurin if he plays.
Yeah, 100%. And it's Jordan Addison over Krosky Merritt. I'll take the ceiling, even risking that, because what's Krosky Merritt's ceiling at this point? Without a touchdown, 8 points,
if that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's Addison's ceiling, though, as the number 2 to Carson Wentz in an offense that has no interest in passing the ball? I know Addison's really good, but, man, like, I felt way better when I drafted Addison than I do right now, seeing this offense, again, be run first. And now it's like, okay, do we want Carson Wentz to actually keep the job? What happens when McCarthy gets back under center?
Yeah, but he was typical Carson Wentz.
What would be your expectations for, there's a dart in your fucking neck when he starts playing?
So it took me a second to realize. I thought like the dart
in your neck,
like,
man.
Like I know. No, it's just like I got the reference. It took me a second to get the reference. That's why I thought you were trying to make a comparison to like a gun to your head. Who do you need to choose? And you were going to give us a toss up. But Jackson Dart,
I am Canadian, Jake. Keep that away from me.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy.
Dan Duggan's report today, like you made it sound like it was going to.
Dan Duggan.
Yeah, for The Athletic. It made it sound like, by the title of the article, that Jackson Dart might be this week. But he was like, basically, the change is inevitable. Like, okay, like we kind of assume that, but is it going to be next week or whatever? Jackson Dart, are you talking specifically at quarterback? I would probably put him in the Brock Purdy range.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he runs around.
He runs.
I think he had 400 yards, like 5 or 6 touchdowns almost every single year as a starter at Ole Miss. So I don't think he's going to be, Lamar or Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels level. But he could act, honestly. Yeah, exactly. Like over the course of 17 games, 500-ish rushing yards, finds his way into the end zone 3-4 times. And that's enough to make a difference, again, when you're talking about the more stationary pocket passers of the world.
Would you trade either RJ Harvey or Trevion Henderson for Aaron Jones if you had the IR spot open for Aaron Jones?
No.
Who else are you adding? So, like, yeah, I'm like, no, unless there's like a significant piece on the waiver wire.
Yeah. Last one.
We hope Jones is back in 4 weeks, but who knows? Man, again, he's an older guy with the hamstring. Who's to say he's not going to come out there and just pull it again? I hope not. Fair. Love me some Aaron Jones, but
disagree. As someone who's highly invested in Jordan Mason, yeah, if Aaron Jones wants to retire, that's fine by me. Last one. Chargers.
I drafted a ton of Jordan Mason. I'm with you. So
Chargers D or New England D this week? Giants or Carolina? The opponents.
Chargers.
I'm going Chargers.
Yeah, I'll take
Chargers are legit really good in real life as well. That should always be your tiebreaker in these sorts of things.
Addison or Godwin? I'd take Addison. And last one. This is the actual last one. Is Kareem Hunt worth stashing? I kind of say no.
I mean, if I'm dropping Pacheco for Trey Benson, for what? Yeah, because if Pacheco got hurt this week, then Kareem Hunt would be in that Nick Chubb RB3 range. But that kind of tells you like there's a limited ceiling, even if.
Yeah, it's not good when your ceiling is being next to Nick Chubb, with an injury going down. So, but that said, again, that could still be a useful piece, in certain lineups. So I would say, deep enough league, sure enough.
Did you, before you get out of here, Pat, did you see the leaving the door open for McCarthy not to be the starter when he came back by Kevin O'Connell, that he needs to be fully healthy before he gets the job back?
From Carson Wentz?
Yeah.
Or do they have is Carson Wentz going to pull a Mission Impossible, pull his mask off, and he's like actually someone else?
No, it's like the full quote is he's got to get healthy. And then I don't think it's one of those things where it's, hey, he's healthy the night before a game. We're going to throw him out there and say, hey, go figure it out type of thing. So there you go.
Yikes. Maybe
it's going to be McCarthy.
Ian, check in on your boy over there, Thor. So
yeah,
see how he's doing.
Thor is going to be in shambles.
Yeah, I think he already is, man. Good. I was tired of seeing all those freaking Michigan highlights. I freaking hate JJ McCarthy, man. He's good and stuff, but too much pain in this Columbus, Ohio household over the years to be praising that dude.
Oh, move up Cam Ward in your rankings. Brian Callahan says he is giving up play calling duties to quarterbacks coach Bo Hardigree. Can't get worse.
Can't get worse, that's for sure.
Brian Callahan and Zach Taylor, man, complete fraud watch based on what they've been able to do with these offenses. Give me a break.
What do you got going on this week, Ian? Where can people watch your show over on the Fantasy Life YouTube channel?
The Fantasy Life Show, you said it, also got podcast forms, all that jazz. We do a Sunday night review that usually goes over 2 hours, Dwayne McFarland and myself. Monday, waivers, Tuesday, utilization, Wednesday, Thursday, previewing the slate. So always answer some start-sit questions as well. Sunday morning for you guys for a good hour. So just trying to get those rosters right. But this is always a fun time, fellas. I appreciate you as always.
Yeah, you can get Ian's rankings at fantasylife.com. You can get that direct link down in the description right now. Jake, your rankings come out midnight tonight.
Yep, midnight tonight, and include some of the buy lows and sell highs we're talking about, and then the podcast, short versions Monday and Friday, and then the longer version on Wednesdays, and then this one gets posted on there. So if you're listening to this on there, make sure you go over to Pat Mayo and Ian Hartitz and smash those likes over there.
That would be very, very helpful. So do that before you leave, and sub to Mayo Media Network. Also on demand on the podcast feeds, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. My rankings will be sent directly to you if you join the free Mayo newsletter. That's down in the description right now. If not, you can find them up on 4for4.com throughout the course of the week. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you. We're here every single Tuesday morning at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. If you ever got questions, if you have more questions, dump them in the comment section. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get around to answering them. But frankly, the rankings do most of the talking for us, so you can just do that too. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.